Welcome and hello to another opening series video where I'm going to this time cover the Hausa. Hausa has like two different kinds of strategies. One where you go for the standard route with the Volanis and the German Riders. And the different opening where you're going to cover this time around where you go for the Akan route. I think it's more or less of an easier Hausa, more or less. So first things first, you don't get crates as African serfs. As African serfs, instead you get a cattle, which you need to gather with all your villagers first, so you can queue up your first villager as soon as possible. Keep in mind that this Zanga cattle does not lose food over time, so after your first villager you can pretty much get your villagers wherever you want them. The food is not going anywhere. See it as a food crate, as a slow gathering food crate. And as here, he is getting also a livestock. And in this case, it's going to be the Zebu cattle instead of the Zanga cattle. But essentially it's a reskin. It's the same thing. So, first you want to drop your granary on your first hunt. As soon as you queued up on your first villager, you want to get one villager on herding the first hunt in, and also one villager on get your granary down as soon as possible, since it does give you a 10% food gather rate speed, and is also tracking nearby hunts as well. Yep, so he is asking of the Akan stuff. Should be there soon. Yep, 3 seconds. You will see that the food gather rate is going to be increased to 0.92. And as soon as you have 150 wood in your livestock value, you want to sell that immediately, as soon as you can, since with that you want to build a house, and you also want to get your village dogs up, which is essentially the steel trap equivalent of the Africans. It does a 5% boost instead of the 10%. And next, you just want to kill more villagers. And in terms of shadow priority, first you want to try to get experience for your first shipment. And afterwards, you pretty much want to try to get either wood or coin treasures, since your age up time is not really that much impacted by food treasures. Although if you get like 100 food treasure plus, you may be able to skip a villager and age up a little earlier. But generally speaking, you want to go for wood and coin treasures, wood and coin treasures after the first shipment you've gotten yourself. As I see here, these granary is attracting those Ibex suns, so it makes herding not quite the hassle as it sometimes is. We all know how it goes. First gem of choice is always going to be 3 villagers. And it's still running around to see if I can find some small wood or some small coin treasures, since we will see it in a bit. Age up of choice going to be 40 villagers. A bit poor pathing, I guess. All the villagers are blocking the rally point for my towns, and I should have readied them to the southern side, so it doesn't work all the way around to get to the hunt. And age up of choice is going to be this time around Songhai. Songhai is going to be more of the aggressive age up. If you want to go greedy, you can also age up with Berbers instead, to go for some Berber villagers. After this time around, wait for the Songhai to buy myself some time, since the goal for this strategy is go to the 3rd age, either with a semi-fast fortress or with a terms of fast fortress. And as soon as you click the age up button, you want to get the hard access up, which is giving yourself a 5% wood upgrade. It does cost 50 food, so it's quite easy to get. And you want to get roughly 5 villagers on coin, 6 villagers on wood, since we do want to go for a university. University is a pretty important building for Africans, and not for Africans, for Hausa. Ethiopia doesn't get it. Because it is going to be our building of choice for our influence. It's very important that you build the university around town centers, trading posts, or strongholds. What's a stronghold? Palace. It's always so different. All those different kind of buildings always drive me nuts. Alright. Because it's getting more and more influence, the more buildings are around it. The more different kinds of buildings are around it. And as a bonus, you're getting yourself a war camp build and a few chests of coin. You want to collect those immediately. And I did a mistake here. I did not go for the second food upgrade. You usually want to also, in transition, shop for the food upgrade. But I was a bit hesitant because I know that Tobias loves his outlaws. So I kind of was hesitant on getting this ASAP. And he also wants selective breeding at some point. Though it's a lot of chopping time. So I didn't went for that just yet. And you also want to get a trading post. So either you can sell... can go for a trading post first and sell the wood for a university. Or you can go the route this I did to go for university first. Sell the cattle for wood. And then go for the trading post. Because otherwise it's going to be too much chopping. Keep in mind that we have the ability called Songhai Raiders, which is costing us as 400 influence. We won't have enough influence for a long time. This is where Palace Armina comes in. Because not only does it give us a Palace wagon to allow us to defend any incoming pushes in the early game, it also gives us 300 influence, which is just enough to get our Songhai Raiders in. And in terms of first unit batch, we want to go for Raiders, since we do want to be annoying and buy ourselves as much time as possible in order to go to the third age without much trouble. You see here, the university is generating 0.75 on base, but this town center is giving us an additional 0.75. And once this palace is built, you will see that the trickle is going to increase further. As an update, there we go. And another 0.75 with this palace. And after the Palace Armina is in, you want to go for a 700 coin. And there we go, I called this Songhai Raider button from the town center, which is giving me quite a decent amount of raiders. I just made a single batch of raiders since he's going for a musketeer kind of unit, the Desert Warrior. A pretty strong musketeer. So you don't really want to overcommit if someone goes for a musketeer kind of unit. You just want to buy yourself time, try to get some kill XP for your next shipment. And our third shipment in H2 is going to be Gananchi, which is allowing us to build those very strong units, very strong musketeers. Those are called Akan musketeers, which have a splash damage, which but the opening revolves around the entire of the time. At this point, you want to have the slingers up, which I don't have quite yet. In hindsight, I should have sold a livestock for the selective breeding and for the slingers upgrade. It also would have boosted up my Egypt time by quite a bit, since all my villagers are more or less on food. I am getting myself a 45 wood treasure. Keep in mind, I'm not like I'm Hausa main, so my livestock market micro, let's say, is not the best as it could have been. Definitely keep an eye on your livestock. Like, once you have above 300, it's definitely worth it to trade them for either wood or coin, depends on what you need. And the 8 choice from going 2 to 3 is going to be the Akans. since we are going to go for some sort of musketeer composition. Yeah, once it reached 400, I sold it. You want to sell it for another war camp. Since if you macro it right and utilize your livestock market in the right way, you can go for double batches of Akans. If you macro right, that is. And in transition, you also want from 2 to 3, you want to get some placer mines, since you're going to have a few villagers on coin, 5 to 6 more or less. And now I go for the snares. Should also gone for the selective breeding, but I don't think I went for that yet. Like from 2 to 3 is definitely where you want to have all the upgrades. The snares, placer mines, and selective breeding. The latest. The earlier the merrier, of course. The traders are still going to around to buy myself time, since we are going from 2 to 3. Which is a heavy investment. We are not aging up fast, since we are going to need all the influence we have for our upgrade and falconets. Even if you would have enough influence by now for the fast age up, it's cost 450 influence. We do not want to go for it, since there's not really anything that benefits us much at this point. Raiders going around trying to be annoying. We have some Akans. Here the Akans in action. 19 attack, 1 splash. And keep also in mind that these Akans are, as here, shadow attacking to the next age. Since the Africans have the bonus that all of your outlaws, all of your even mercenaries and your natives do shadow attack to the next ages. It is unique to the Africans, since you also ally yourself with some natives, depends on your age up choice. Yep, and we are going to use the age up bonus, going to be some Akans. And as soon as you age up, you want to go for the important cannons, which is allowing us to train some falconets. And the first gem of choice is going to 1000 influence to get a batch of cannons out. The best you can go for is probably around 3. 3 cannons is the amount of cannons we are going for. And keep massing on these Akans. The more Akans, the merrier. Since we are going to go for a musketeer composition and we're going to need all the anti-cav we have at our disposal to defend the falconets from not being sniped. Once influence arrives, you want to collect it pretty much with all your villagers. With at least 5, so you can start to queue up the falconet as soon as possible. And next you wait for the falconet batch to finish. You could in the meantime go around the map and try to see if you can raid your opponent. Just to ensure that your opponent is not pushing you while you are vulnerable, since I'm very vulnerable to a skirmish type unit at the moment. But thankfully, Blue in this guy at this point, Tobias, does have a lot of them, but he does not decide to go in the middle of the map. That's where I get selected breeding way too late. You want to get selective breeding at around from at the least the latest when you go from the 2nd to the 3rd age. And the 3rd card of choice, since he's not going to grow aggressive, is going to be 1000 coin. Once the batch of falconets is finished, that's your go time. That's where you want to push out. And that's what I'm going to do. Since Tobias also reaches the 3rd age, and I do not want him to give him the time to get his veterancy upgrades and his palace up and all the AoE III upgrades as well. So you're going to siege on this palace as soon as possible, since this is where he gets his coverance, and we do not want him to get coverance out. So we are going to siege down this stronghold as soon as we can. Our coin has arrived. Now that's where we're going to. On an ideal board, I was very focused here on this fight, so I didn't want to lose my falconets. But that's when you want to switch all your villagers onto food and get your villagers on the coin crate. And there's a different a few different options you can go for. You could either go for the H4, for the what's called Yoruba, because in a deal world you want to have your native treaties in H4, not sure what's called, which is giving you a great number of Native Americans. Nuts. Like it's like essentially an H2. Remember the H2 treaty, native treaties in H4, but it gives you a much greater amount of units. I, for this time, decided to go for a massive Lefidi Knight switch. As here, gonna finish a batch of only a batch of 6, since I switched my villagers from coin to food a little too late, since I was focused on this fight in the middle. Next shipment, I'm going to go for the Lefidi Knight again, to go for a massive switch, since he doesn't have like any anti-cap at all. So I only show my Akan at this point. I keep those Lefidi Knights hidden, since he does not know about my Lefidi Knights. And as fourth card, my bad. As fourth card, I am going to send the Sahelian Kingdoms, which is giving those Elite Akan musketeers a 15% attack and 15% hit points improvement, since these count as here a native warrior. And this card is giving native warriors, outlaws, and mercs an improvement. I think he does see my Lefidis now, but he does not know about how many I have. Another massive batch of Lefidis is about to finish, so I want to wait for the next batch of Lefidis to come up, and we are also waiting for our shipment to come in from the Sahelian combat, which is then going to be our go time, since we have spent all of our resources. And as soon as you have influence available, any excess influence that you have is going to be used on Falconets. So whenever you have foreign influence, always go for more Falconets, and that's where it's our go time. But the card has arrived. We have pretty beefy Akans, 26 attack, 1 splash damage, with a tremendous amount of Lefidi Knights. And pretty much the only thing that keeps him alive is his mortar, but he's calling it. But yeah, that was the Akan opening from Hausa. Again, there's another opening for Hausa where you go for the standard route, where you go for the Lefidis, not Lefidis, the Fulanis, Javelin Riders, and Raiders sort of thing. However, this is much more complicated, and this one is kind of pretty similar. Kind of easy, but easier than the classical opening. And it's pretty adaptable too, because you can also go for some sort of H2 aggression with that, where you go for Akans and get your Raiders up. And if you are in a pinch, you can always go for, instead of Raiders, you can go for Fulani Archers. If your opponent is, for example, heavily pressuring you, you could use the big button of the town center, the Songhai Raiders, to raid your opponents that way. And use your Fulanis until your Akans arrive for defense. A batch of Fulanis and 5 Raiders should be able to pretty much repel anything that comes across you. But yeah. Again, if you want to go for the greedy option, feel free to age up with Berbers instead, since it does give you the option to train some Berber villagers instead for influence. So your eco is a bit more stable that way. And yeah, hope it was educational, hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you then in the next video. Bye!